right. So before we get started, Charles, I have you unmuted on my side. Are you muted on yours? That way. It seems like you're self-muted, so I can't hear you.
Please keep me muted, Mike, because I'm in the car and there might have some road noise.
Okay, got it. I'll let you unmute yourself. That way you can come and go if relevant.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Jeff will be able
All
to handle any questions.
Certainly. All right. So we'll get started now. Thanks for attending today's webinar on smart building technologies and twins. During this webinar, please use the interface to post any questions you have, and we'll be glad to answer those at the end of the webinar today. In terms of the presenters today, we have myself, Mike Laird, the Chief Technology Officer for PICS, as well as Chris Sayer, our Art Director. And from eProperty Care, we have Charles Hadsell, the CEO, on phone, and Jeff Hawk, the Chief Revenue Officer, as a presenter as well. Let's go back. Great. And so for myself and Chris, we've spent over 25 years using virtual reality for multiple industries and digital twins for 15 years. We're now applying our knowledge and skills and abilities for the commercial real estate market. And so today's guests are from eProperty Care, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their company.
Sure. So it's Jeff Hawk speaking. As Mike discussed, I'm the Chief Revenue Officer. eProperty Care was founded about 3.5 years ago by Charles, my business partner. And we focus on smart building technologies, particularly in the multifamily real estate development arena. And we also work with a lot of property management firms and firms that are acquiring properties with the goal of doing value add to them.
Thank you. So in today's webinar, we'll be going over the key components of smart building digital twins, the combination of smart buildings and digital twins, some case studies and applications, as well as enhanced benefits of the digital twin technologies. So from our background, Chris and my background, from 2006, we actually created a digital twin of a submarine engine room that was a first of a kind for Bechtel Bettis at the time. And it was allowed multiple people to do training in an engineering space tied to the simulation model. So you could do exactly what you could do in the real world space, but not and have accidents and make mistakes, but not cause catastrophic failures. And we were able to prove to the Navy that by putting a 3D gaming front end on top of the simulation model, when you turn on a pump, the temperature, pressure, flow rate data that came to the gauges was responded in milliseconds. So there was no negative training based upon that. Another aspect here is this glass model. It's called a glass model of a nuclear reactor. And so you have the reactor core in the center and what's called 4 steam generators are these columns. And these are the temperature gradients along the path coming from the steam generator, creating the steam that then goes to the electrical generation systems in another building, and then cooling off and going back to the reactor. And we're able to trigger what's called a local loss of coolant accident, where steam is leaking out of a major pipe, and the temperatures gradients were responding in real time, so you can actually visualize what was happening. But again, this is back in 2006, 2010. And although the term digital twin was coined back in the 60s and used by NASA for the Apollo missions and such, it really wasn't adapted by the industries until more recently. So we see that there's 4 stages of digital twins. The first 2 being collection and monitoring, and with the digital twins representing a connection between the physical object and the data itself from the site and the sensors. For example, like heating systems, thermostats, locks, lights, things like that. And then the monitoring of that is then keeping track of that data by being able to visualize that data and see where problems where they occur within a building. And further, taking it to the next step is doing simulation and optimizations. And so once the data is collected, when you apply artificial intelligence or machine learning, especially within a 3D virtual model, we can then visualize how things are changing and do predictive analysis of where a system may fail down the road, given a history or trend. So you can actually predict when a certain system may have problems, either due to current data or historical data. And then in terms of optimizations, also we can use simulations to make changes to real estate. So do design optimizations, eliminating factors causing deterioration or change energy intense systems for more sustainable variants. Do what if scenarios along those lines. For the key elements of a smart building digital twin, a lot of digital twin data or twin systems are set up using BIM data and IoT systems to then make them a smart building. Again, tying the analytics, and then key from what we visualize as being more expansive of the use is extending that with virtual reality and visualization of the systems and how they all integrate with each other. And that's either through virtual reality, augmented reality, or mixed reality, as we'll show later in the presentation. But one of the key things is that data analytics that then gives you that, be able to do the projected trends. Some of the benefits of digital twins for the commercial real estate market, and it ties into the optimization of the design and development process, doing what if scenarios, getting the design and approval process, getting permits, things like that. Increased data visualization to speed up decision making, reduce maintenance costs, which definitely is one of eProperty Care's strengths. Access maintenance logs, procedures, and increase tenant satisfaction by having any problems that are occurring be fixed more readily due to the ability to get to the problems quicker. And so again, that reduces maintenance time and costs, optimizes property and asset management, especially if you have multiple buildings and you have multiple digital twins. You can then extend that to see how something may be affecting one building may eventually impact other buildings, especially if it's similar buildings on the same site. And of course, that then building more suitable to the tenants and the community at large. So in this particular example of a digital twin used for and design visualization, we
Hey, Mike,
have, yeah.
we're gonna have to mute something back there. There's some road noise, I think.
Yep, I just muted Charles temporarily.
Gotcha.
So this is a 3D virtual reality model. It can be used with headsets or glasses or smartphone. And with this, we can then explore various aspects of the building and be able to get information. In this particular case, we've unbranded it from our clients to keep things proprietary for them, but it went to originally to their listing page for the property, their marketing page, as well as maps of the location itself, or we can then drop into the building and learn more about the building itself. So in this case, the building specifications, and this can all be live data that's off of a website or off of a cloud service. So you can have availability, pricing, any live data that would be updated could be accessed through here easily. And then from a marketing standpoint for this property, the client had 4 days to present not only the building, but the site. They wanted them to buy the site and build the building. And so this is a conceptual design of the building that was built in 3 days for them to present to their client on day 4. And with that, we then were able to market certain features of the fire sprinkler system is an intelligence system where all the fire sprinklers have their own sensor, so the response is localized. The lights were actually able to load up the web page itself. You can actually order the parts for the lights through here. It's a fully functioning web page. And then some other information that was pertinent to the client was the insulated doors, since this is in a desert area of Central California where the site is located. And so again, we can pop up any type of collateral material or marketing materials or data in terms of operations and maintenance. This particular example is based upon using a HoloLens or mixed reality set of glasses. And what this is allowing a technician to be able to do is have an X-ray view of looking into the ceiling. What they did in advance of dropping in the ceiling tiles is take spherical images and 3D data from before the ceilings were put in to see all the cable trays, all the runs, and that way he can simply walk through and see through like an X-ray view and figure out exactly which set of ceiling tiles need to be moved to get to what he needs to access in the ceiling itself. With BIM data associated within the 3D models that we create, we can do the same thing by being able to see what's inside of the walls or the floor below, and basically provide you with an X-ray view of the 3D data in that space. So in terms of e-property care, I'll let Jeff speak to this slide.
Sure. So what this slide is showing is the different modalities that we offer within our solution. So as you see on the screen, smart locks, water leak detection and shut off, and smart temperature. Those are the major portions of our system. We also have video intercom, lighting, and audio solutions. And we came to PICS to build a model together to show how these different modalities could be implemented in multifamily housing units.
So in this example, I'll load up the digital twin here for a building that we purposed for this. And so this is a multifamily apartment complex. And one of the things we can do with the 3D virtual model is actually link to an interface. So this is an image of eProperty Care's dashboard. And this could be launched and logged into remotely by using a command through our system. And I'll let Jeff talk to this interface.
Sure. So this is the eProperty Care dashboard as you described, and you can see within the dashboard, the operator, property manager, owner of the building can look at key metrics and measurements on the building. So here you're seeing temperature control, the status of the door locks, how much water consumption's going on, the status of the thermostats, and in the model we'll show later on, we have water sensors and things that we could monitor within the utility and boiler room of the building. So this is a consolidated view, kind of overall health dashboard for the entire property.
Another example of the web-based interface is the video dashboard, which I'll let Jeff speak to.
Sure. So in this particular view, the video cameras have been implemented. So what the model is showing here is the interaction between the digital twin and then what could be the live footage at that camera position. And in this example, we're showing scenes that are being captured by that particular camera.
As Jeff mentioned, they also have the video intercom, video surveillance, key passwords, or using fobs or other cards. And we're going to go into the building itself. And we'll first go into the unit. So to start off with, we have a thermostat that is digitally controlled and tied to their system. Within temperature sensors as well. The smart light switch, so it's again controllable for the user. They would have their own version of the app for the tenant, as well as the owner of the building. So if a unit was vacant, they could remotely control the lights and other controls within this unit. And then, as Jeff was mentioning, the water sensor itself, there's a couple different water sensors. One is detecting the water itself coming from this washing machine or the hot water tank, and that would then set off an alert and could either cut off the valve for the apartment itself, which is in the other room we'll show in a second, as well as set up a caution or a warning to the building owner if the tenant is not available. So this is an example of the water shutoff and flow meter. And so that again is controlled through Wi-Fi signals from the various sensors, and then also to the hub and out to the internet.
So Mike, probably a good thing to touch on at this juncture is we're using this model, current state, also as a selling tool. So as we're engaging with new prospects that are interested in the solution, we're able to take them through this model, go to the various parts of the building, the exterior, the utility room, and so forth, so they have an understanding as to how the physical gear would get implemented on the property.
So like, for example, here we have the dry contact sensor versus the other water sensor. The installation of the flow valves that would be on the water lines going to each of the floors, so you can cut it off either at the building, on a particular floor, or on a particular unit if fully implemented.
That's correct. And we don't have it pictured yet, but there is cellular connectivity that all this works through. So a cellular hub is kind of the brain of our system, and all these devices communicate with that hub over the Z-Wave protocol.
And then the last one we showed was like the smart
E-property care is smart.
So
Right, so we have different support for different types of door locks, deadbolts, lever locks, mortise lock. Depending on the application, we have different selection choices that we can use, and it varies by the building and the building specifications.
anything else you want to comment before moving on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think just the notion that you're seeing kind of a mixed use of the model. So in certain cases, we're actually firing the application or showing how that can be integrated. And then in other cases, we're using the model as a training facility or a sales facility. So, helping someone to understand the technology could be used as a training facility for a property manager about the different parts. So for us, this has been a big game changer. And as we engage with our clients, they're having a much better time understanding the solution and physically seeing how it would be implemented into their own property. So it's been a great add to our repertoire of things that we present, and it's been very helpful to us.
And so here we have two examples of the app interface, in this case, locking and unlocking a door of a unit. And so this can be done either by the tenant or the building owner. If a service technician needs to be able to come in and get access, there's numerous ways of providing that access to someone that either regularly comes in or just once in a while needs to be able to have access. And then in this particular example was showing the ability to set settings on the thermostat, see historical trends, and make those changes through the cloud-based application itself. So one of the best ways of visualizing digital twins is through the use of virtual reality technology. And one of the, if built property, VR models can be used to provide additional benefit to the building owner that further improves return on investment on both the cost of the model and their investment beyond operational optimization. And this extends through the life cycle of a property from pre-development, development, through a finished property. And so that's the next three examples we'll be giving. In terms of pre-development, it's very effective to use for visualization, design decisions, and pre-construction capital raising and permit approvals. I'll let, see, Christy, I believe you have control.
I do not.
Hold on here. There we go. Yeah, you should. Okay, I'm not sure why. Okay. So in this particular case, we built this virtual student housing complex starting about a year prior to construction completion. And so they didn't have ability to give virtual tour or actual physical walkthroughs of the student housing campus while it was being constructed. And in addition, the client still was making decisions on terms of the interior design. And so both in this physical representation of the leasing office once the construction was done, as well as in the pre-leasing office that was off-site, they had a touch screen board that had this application running. They had 3 computers with head-mounted displays. So the students, if they wanted to put on a Oculus Rift and full head-mounted display to have a full virtual experience. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Then you could, the families could interact with the board. They could tour every room of the facility, all of the amenities, and get a full experience. And they achieved a 95% pre-lease rate on a per bed basis for hundreds of beds. Prior to construction completion, that was 9% higher than they were expecting. And I'll let Chris get into how the design visualization aspect helped them with the interior designers.
Yeah, think about this space in terms of, let's say all you've got is a floor plan, right? Or maybe you've got some renderings of it. That's only going to get you so far. When we talk about a real-time visualization and digital twin, it serves multiple purposes, and it really helps you to visualize a space, understand it, and do better planning as well up front. And in this case, when we look at this space in particular, it's a very eclectic looking area. This is obviously not your typical style of materials and furnishings that you would see in your average space. What we're able to do was to sit with the client while it was in the pre-development phase and go through and apply textures and change out materials and have them visualize what this would look like with those different materials, textures, and colors in place. And so as an example, this wall here, it's a particular blue now, which is what they finalized on, but we were able to take the Sherwin-Williams paint colors that they were considering, apply it to the model, walk through the model, see it with those paint colors in place, and then help them make a decision along the way without having to go the route of making expensive renders, color comping something. This was something we could sit with one person, they could share with the team, and we could go through and we can make multiple design decisions on the fly in real time, and then have somebody walk through it. And another thing we can do here inside this space, which is great about any one of these digital twins, is we can jump from a point, let's say here in the leasing office, and we can go up to one of the bedroom units. And let's just take a look at the one bedroom master real quick. So we'll just click this little floor plan here. There we go. And that's going to take us up to this very photorealistic layout of the one bedroom master plan. As we take a look around here, it's going to be a little bit choppy because we're doing a screen share, but keep in mind that this was built for a head mounted display. So, putting on an Oculus Quest or, a Vive and then walking through the space with this headset on gives you the impression that you're actually in the space. And it feels, like you're really there, even before the space is built, which is what the client was looking for, was a way of, being able to start leasing out these units before the space was built, and not having to sit down with somebody and say, okay, here, I've got these drawings. I want you to imagine what this looks like. Here's some great renders. Instead of that, instead of having them try to imagine being in the space, we were able to put them into the digital twin virtually and say, here you go. Take a walk around, take a look at how it's laid out, look at the size of the space, see we were actually able to furnish everything as well, so we staged it. And, it has a very lived-in feel already. You're not even just looking at an open floor plan, you're looking at something that feels alive and has the ability to give you a sense of presence when you're in it. And then finally, and we take a look at these things, they're all great. But when we come to the outside here and, we look at this pool area, you think to yourself, what's going to show this off the best way possible? You're trying to get these spaces leased, and you want somebody to understand how great this particular property is and what it has to offer. We can show, from detail from as little as the steam coming off the hot tub to the fire in the fireplace, and recreate the water that's in the pool. And looking around here, getting a better understanding of exactly how this all ties together and how large it is, how open it is, how colorful it is, and how lively it is. And, we can look around here and experience it versus looking at something on a flat 2D render or an overhead, site plan. It's not going to excite anybody. So.
And just to extend on that concept of the design visualization, a lot of the staging items and furnishings and amenities you saw in the rooms, those were picked off of supplies that were available for purchase off of the internet. And so the client working with us, when we staged it virtually, provided renderings of those from our shots to the interior designers, which they then matched about 90% of that. So when the students moved in months later, a lot of them commented that it looked almost identical to how it did, the months or year prior when they were doing the leasing and exploring the virtual space before moving in. Another example of ours is creating for Exxon for a new headquarters facility. And so it's helped to expedite the order changes by allowing people of different locations to see the variances between the design using a VR model and the actual space. And so that allowed the familiarization time for the new employees that were going to be relocating from multiple offices to this new regional headquarters to be expedited. It also eliminates, in terms of the previous demonstration, it reduces or eliminates the need for a physical showroom or sales leasing office. And as I mentioned, we've had 95 to 100% pre-lease or pre-sell rates using this technology. And one client was actually able to pre-sell 70 to 80 units of a second phase condominium based upon the success of the first phase, while the second phase was under design. There wasn't even finished design yet, and they've already collected 70 to 80 units deposits on those units. So in this case, the building is laid out in quadrants, and so there's familiarization in terms of the different spaces. You can see each of the office types that are enclosed are for different purposes and are named appropriately. Like this is one of their meet rooms for a medium-sized conference room. And there's different types of smaller rooms for single purpose or quiet rooms for studying. And so they wanted to educate their employees as to how each of these spaces were intended to be used.
And we could even show you where the bathrooms are, the most important part of the building. Take you right there. The other thing I'd like to point out here is just, in terms of visual style and what we can achieve with a digital twin is, this glass here was very particular, and, they wanted to display this building as closely as possible to what the finalized design would be. And so we're able to take these patterns that they had picked out for the glass, the rug, and you can see here, this rug is very, very particular. It's not your one style rug here. It actually looks almost like an ocean shore coming in. But But we're able to replicate many of these very complex designs and bring them to life in the environment to make somebody feel as if they're really there.
In this next particular case for finished properties, this particular building was originally, this 12,000 square feet on the second floor, was a gym pre-COVID. And the client, the broker for this property, wanted to show it to 3 different target audiences, which we'll go into. The first one being a retail space, which we then showed as a completely vacant space with just the structural elements, so they could see the maximum capabilities of using the space. The second is a medical clinic, which I'll let Chris take over from here. But they didn't have any designs. It's a mythical design of the medical clinic, but fully fleshed out and staged to show what the art of the possible is for the space. And then the third was a technical office.
So while this loads up, the thing I want to point out here is that, you know, I want to get past maybe one misconception folks might have of a digital twin, is that it is a large file maybe, or that it is, you know, something that you require special hardware for, and that's not the case. As you can see here, we're running this inside of a web browser. So this works on any device from your phone to your tablet to your Apple, Windows-based computer, Linux-based computer, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't matter what the web browser is either. So, you know, we have full freedom of accessing a digital twin, no matter what your needs are and how light it needs to be, or how heavy and detailed it needs to be, like we showed in the previous examples. And so once again, you know, as Mike showed earlier, you know, we had the empty layout of the building there with the nothing but the structural elements in place. And now we're coming over here to this, you know, medical office. And as we do a deeper dive, we can come through and we can see where each of the, you know, examination rooms are in this design. We can also see where the nurses' stations are. And we can even, you know, take a look over here. We can see that there's a meeting room here with a video playing on the television screen here. But ultimately, you know, while that's great to see everything overhead, the best part about it is being able to walk through and do a full virtual tour of the space. And so we can start here from the waiting room, come right up to the receptionist area, and then we can enter the space and we can do a full walk tour of the entire floor. And then we can jump back and forth. You know, if we want to see the floor plan again, we can go back up to the floor plan. But, you know, this is great because you get a great understanding of what this is like walking from, you know, the initial entry point all the way to any other area inside of the model itself. And the other thing that's nice about these digital twins is that we can give you a, you know, a full-on automated tour of the space. So we can come here, we can hit one button, and if you're, let's say you're giving a presentation or you're sharing this with somebody that's not very comfortable with, you know, maybe some of the technology, then you just tell them to hit one button and they will get a full tour of the space automatically, which is a nice feature to have. And then finally, as this comes back out, we're going to come over to the office. And so let's take a look at what this exact same space would look like, but converted for a higher tech office instead of a medical clinic. Okay. Take the roof off. We can look down at the floor plan view. We can zoom in, we can pan, and once, you know, right off the bat, we can see just how different this is. You know, we've got this core here that's set up for some desks and meeting area. We've got some desks in the background, or I should say offices in the background, offices here. And then we've got an open plan here with a bunch of desks and cubicles sitting around it. Let's jump right in. We'll come down to the receptionist area. And immediately from the previous walkthrough, we get a really, really solid understanding of what the differences are between the two different floor plans of each of these digital twins. Very different, same space, very different feel, very different flow, very different, sense of use and scale. And all this running inside of a web browser.
So in terms of digital twins, there's a growing discussion that digital twins can mean a lot of different things to different people. We've taken a more comprehensive approach to account for the basics of digital twins and BIM data through the capture and integration of operational data. But in addition, we construct our models for purpose beyond digital twins, which delivers value across the entire life cycle of the building to meet a range of investors' needs. And this includes driving the ESG initiatives. They can also capture the cost of savings that associated with digital twins from an operational standpoint, but also drive revenue from the same model, which increases the return on investment for both the model and the building. So at this point, if you have any questions, please post them in the interface if you haven't already, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you have. And Jeff, while we're waiting on that, do you have any other comments or topics to bring up?
I think for the benefit of the audience, Mike, can you talk about, how quickly one of these models can be developed and what's required for them to start the project?
Certainly. In the case of the example where we gave the 3 properties, we're able to turn around the first version in a matter of days. The second version, because they didn't have any designs for the medical clinic, took about a week to a week and a half. And the same went for the third version. But properties can be done as quickly as 3 or 4 days in the case of that industrial property we showed earlier, and larger complexes that have multiple buildings and multiple units per building can take a few weeks. But all we really need is some floor plans. If it's pre-development, if there's building elevations, that's helpful. If it's based upon an existing building, photographs of the existing building or a similar building we can use as references. Even Google Street View and Google Earth can be our references for building height and the materials and such. And if it's going to be a remodel renovation, then we just really need to understand what are the new materials, lighting, and how is it going to be staged, if it's going to be staged or is it going to be shown vacant. And so we've worked off of sketches off of napkins, as long as we're given enough information to build the floor plan, and then have a few discussions with the clients to what's the height of the windows and style and things like that to build out those spaces. So obviously, the more information that's available, the better. If CAD or vector-based PDFs are available, that's ideal. If not, other print forms of floor plans and photographs are greatly helpful. Let's see, I see I got a question. What's the minimum budget or project size? These are typically viable. We've done spaces as low as a couple thousand square feet for an office space. And if it's going to be just the interior space and not the entire building, probably in the ballpark of $750 to $1,000 for that size of a property. And it's a staged approach because like doing a 1 million square foot industrial building is much less than doing a 100,000 square foot office space due to the complexity of number of walls and the architecture involved. Especially if you get into some of the spaces that have coffered or raised ceilings and indirect lighting and some of the interior design elements. So it's based upon property type and then property size and then level of complexity or realism the client's looking for. So does that help, Cheryl? Okay, great. I say, oh, Michael, I'm sorry, I just saw your last name. Any other questions for the audience? Okay. Well, thanks again for your time, and look forward to seeing you at one of our upcoming webinars. Feel free to contact us at the phone number or email below on the webinar, and you'll have a reprint of the replay sent out later today. Thanks, and have a good day.